So see, yeah, I tried to tell you that,
Okay.
right? Like I was like,
Well, that
I
flies
fly
like
it
that.
like this.
Yeah, it flies like that. Yeah.
I fly it like that, and I talked to Dell, and
Uh-huh.
Dell said that that's fine. He said there's no problem. He said he actually took.
I seen him cut that right there.
Yeah,
and fly it.
he's actually cut it off and flown it like
Yeah.
that, right? So, I personally like this style. This is a brand new reworked prop by Rick Simmons. He's the best prop repair guy in the business.
Okay,
he lives
cool.
here in Amarillo. The head's in good shape. I pulled this off. You can pull it off again if you want, but it's in good shape.
Good.
It is getting close to its 100-hour maintenance.
Okay.
So there's a kit you buy from Glider Sports that has everything you need for 100-hour maintenance. The big problem with this right now is going to be the carb.
Right.
So the carb is leaking fuel. One of the gaskets in there is leaking.
I want to take this home and I want to basically
Tear it down.
Rebuild.
Okay.
Rebuild.
So let me just tell you what's going on with
Yes,
it.
please.
I'm very honest. Right.
Yeah.
The last thing I want someone to do is fly something that they do not know everything
You
about.
said that you taped that and that was fine,
Yeah,
right?
I just put black tape around it, and it will want to tape it. I just took the tape off because I wanted you to see it.
Exactly. Yeah,
But,
yeah,
like,
you
I'm
told
all
me. Thank
about
you.
open disclosure. These
Thank
are
you.
about, I think, $400.
Just this
For
side
the
or
whole
the
panel.
whole?
For the whole panel on each side.
Okay.
And feel free to give Andrew Fuller a call. He's the one that that I bought those. I think I spent like 200 and something on these because I wanted someone to have an option of having decent.
And then this would have to be restitched onto the new bars?
Yes, that's one of the things about the flat top is that it is actually sewn in.
Okay.
There's pluses and minuses to that. This one doesn't have. It's not sewn in. Right? So see how it's kind of funky looking, like you've got this big like wad of mess. I can take mine completely off of those arms. I could put a different one on if I want. Whereas his is sewn in. The nice thing about it being sewn in, these are really a pain in the butt to get off. Like they're really a pain in the butt. Like you've got to spend some serious time trying to get them in there real nice. Whereas his, I'd really like Andrew's to be more like this. They have quick releases here, so you can take.
Ah, I like that.
So if you want to see it run, I can start it. If not, I'll go ahead and start tearing it down. If you want, it's up to you.
Yeah, I'd like to
You want to see it run?
see it kick over.
Okay, I figured you would. So, and you'll see why it's not running that great. We'll see if it'll.
Like
The
tight,
flat
right?
top, you're very unlikely to ever get your hand through there. On some of these, like the PAP and stuff, dude, they're like this.
Yeah.
I mean, like you could just easily just
That's
shove
what
your
I've
hand through.
heard, that these are really, really.
Do you see my one where I
Good.
crashed that thing?
No.
And I stuck my hand back through it while the prop was spinning at 10,000 RPM?
No. This
Yeah.
one here?
Yeah. Yeah, I've got the extra pieces. I had to replace this piece.
Oh,
and
these
this
are nice
piece.
and tight.
Yeah, well, it's brand new.
Yeah, it better be, right? Gotcha.
So yeah, I turned this on its top. And when I came down, I shoved my hand into here and it caught my hand and kept it from getting chewed up by that fucking prop. That prop was hitting rocks. I mean, you could see it. That prop was just hammering rocks.
Oh,
I was
man.
like, damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is basically very similar to the flat
And
top, right?
you said this was a $10,000 unit?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is similar, almost exactly like a flat
It's
top.
very similar. He made some adjustments to where the sway bars are. It's really hard to see it unless you get out your tape measure.
Right.
But essentially, this one has less torque, so you don't have to manage your torque nearly as much, which I like a lot better. He offers. He offered the My 19 motor, which I wanted the My 19 because I wanted this. I wanted the ability to hit that button right there and start it. So
Gotcha.
I've got the starter right there on the button.
Nice.
Because my shoulder's messed up.
Gotcha,
I'm having a
gotcha.
hard time pulling. Anyways, so yeah. So anyways, oh, and then he changed it. Like he put these at a 45, so they're not at a 90. So, which really doesn't mess with you until you start doing acro, and then I tend to weight shift a lot, so I would hit myself on those when I would do acro.
Gotcha.
So, I went up and did acro on this the other day. That wasn't that big a deal. Not the other day, I guess a few months ago. Let's see, right here. So your reed valves stick down into here. So you've got like, and I don't know how good you are at motors and stuff. I didn't know anything about motors. Like this was the first motor I ever put my hands on. But it's got like these little reeds, right? And they basically are like kind of like reeds on a clarinet, right? They vibrate, and I guess they diffuse that. They make that motor, that fuel into a real fine mist before it goes into the motor.
Right.
And so those, I believe, are in good shape. But I will tell you that the guy who owned this previous to me over-torqued this. And I don't know if he over-torqued it. I imagine he did.
Right.
And he actually stripped this out. And he left it in there for it to fall out on me. And it went into the prop. So what I did is I put a longer bolt through, because it actually... Like, the bolt only stuck through like this, but the bolt hole was that deep.
Right.
So I put a longer bolt through and then washers and stood it off. So just understand that that's there. I don't want you to, and I put red Loctite in it so that so it wouldn't back the hell out. But I will tell you, if you over torque that, this is actually a fairly common issue on Vitarazi motors. It happened to Woody. On one of his videos, and he actually has a video showing how to do it. He put in a helicoil where he drilled it out and then just put a helicoil in there, and then once you put a helicoil in it, the problem's fixed. But it is a few hour project of drilling it out and then putting your helicoil in there, breaking off the tab, and then so if you strip that out, you will have to put a helicoil in. The rest of them are in good shape that I know of.
Okay.
Let's see. To take your carb off, you do not have to take these 4 bolts.
Okay.
I'm an idiot. I thought you had to take these 4 bolts. There's actually, once you take this off, there's like 2 bolts. And then there's a long bolt that goes all the way through it from here to here, and that carb comes right off. Okay. It's a very quick replacement. I would replace that carb. I've tried rebuilding that carb. I watched Brian. I watched, I don't know how many videos, and I followed everything to the T, and I never could get it back. And from what I understand, is that those can go bad because where there's a little pin that sits down in a little hole, and what happens is if a grain of sand or a microscopic grain of sand can get in there, and when that pin seats, it doesn't seat properly, and there's just no way to fix that. Gotcha. I saw a guy who fixed it. He had a machine shop, and for a normal human,
we don't have machine.
Yeah, for a normal human, spend the $250 or whatever dollars, go to Glider Sports or Sky Sports and get you a new carb, and just throw a new carb on there. I talked to Don, he does the Texas Wind Riders, and he's the big guy in Dallas, and he's like, man, he says about every 200 to 300 hours, just throw a new fucking carb on there and be done with it. Just because those new carbs make. I will tell you that probably 70% of all the problems on a Vitarazi motor is due to the car. That's just life with a 2-stroke, right?
Right.
So, I did replace the exhaust. It's a little bit heavier than the OEM exhaust. This is by Vortex Aero, and it's been absolutely amazing. It has not cracked at all.
Oh, good. I've heard so many horror stories.
Yeah, but you won't ever talk to anyone who's ever bought a Vortex Aero who's had it break.
Really?
Yeah, when that thing breaks, I'm going to get a Vortex and put on it.
All right.
Like I won't even deal with warranty. I'm not going to deal with that issue. I want to be able to go out and fly it. I won't have to come out and screw with. I had 2 break on me from Vitarazi.
Wow.
And then Andy here in town, he bought the Plus right before that My 19. He bought the Plus. He had 2 break-in warranty, and they said that's the last one we'll do because your warranty's out. By the time they got him the next one, because it was a month each time, right?
Yeah.
And it's a month for them to get him a damn replacement deal, so he's out flying. He can't fly for a month. And then they told him, well, that's the last one we'll give you after the second one. So he called me up. He was like, hey, man, who's that place you bought those deals from, or the exhaust from? It's like Vortex Aero. He calls one, buys one. He never even put a warranty one on his system. He's like, you know what? I'll leave this here as a spare.
Right.
But he says, I'm just done with dealing with that crap. Because who wants to... in Amarillo, we have so few flyable days that when you see the absolute perfect day,
is this one of them?
Like, yeah, almost like this morning. I think our winds aloft are pretty bad. Ryan Carlton, it's a balloonist website, but they're really good at determining your winds aloft. So we can see at 262 feet, we're at 12 knots.
And what's the website?
At 1,500 feet, we're 17 knots. So let's see, 1 knot equals 1.1 mile an hour. So we're 20 mile an hour at 1,500 feet. So.
And what's the website?
Ryan Carlton, KAMA, and KAMA is my local.
Okay.
So this is much easier to read than Windy.
Yeah, much easier.
Yeah, because it basically just says at 0 feet, at 95 feet, at 260. Because balloonists have to know, because that's the only way they can go different directions.
That's where I heard that before. Yeah, I think I heard on.
Right, and then to see what it's going to be at different times of the day.
What is it saying?
Boop, boop, boop. He's funny. I don't know why he did that, but yeah, you can see it at 10 o'clock a.m. Here's your winds aloft. Right, we're actually going to drop this afternoon. Is going to be a beautiful day here.
Oh, nice.
See, windy.
Yeah, I have that.
Oh yeah, everybody. The first app you should use is windy. So our wind's pretty high right now. Let's go look at the river here. River's awesome to fly here. Oh no, was it tomorrow? So when you check windy, something that most people don't do you leave it on this or do you switch over to NAM? Make sure to switch to NAM. That's the North American model. Otherwise, you're looking at the European model. Doesn't work for the United States, like at all. Like look at how much different the wind looks, right? Like it's blue here now, right? So it's oh, did I just change it? I talk a little bit about that on my last video, but yeah. So let's see, Saturday, Sunday morning. Yeah, so Sunday morning's perfectly flyable here. So,
okay.
Anyways,
thank you for that tip.
Let's see what else. The one thing, their springs, dude. Bring a friend to put those on. Like, I have a feeling, and I talked to the guys at Vortex. I was like, dude, I've never put a spring on that's been that hard to do in my life. Like, literally, I was standing on it, like putting everything I had into it. Andy said he had to get his bench out, and actually, what I ended up doing was putting a come along, and using a come along to pull that damn spring. It was crazy, but he said the reason why they don't have them break though is because he says the springs that they put on the Viterazzi from the default are way too weak, but anyone could put them on.
Gotcha.
All right. Check your these little cables. Right. Just make sure that those are all in good shape. I think I saw that one was starting to. Yeah, there it is. That needs to be reconnected.
Gotcha.
I noticed that my last.
So what is a quick pre-flight that you do on this thing?
So essentially my pre-flight is just what you just saw.
Right.
I just check those, right? What these do, just so you know, there's a misconception on what these safety cables do. Okay. The safety cable is to keep your damn exhaust from going back to your prop. That turns into a class A disaster, right?
I bet.
You're gonna ruin a prop probably if a spring goes through it, or you're going to hurt it real bad. But if this goes through it, you're going to slam into here, you're going to stop your engine suddenly, and it's possible you could damage your engine. Right. So the safety cable is more to keep that, but you also try to thread it through. I don't know I was able to get them on all these because these were so small, it was hard to get the cable through. But you try to put the cable through here as well, so it does, if a spring does break, it holds the spring too. Okay. So you're always going to lose something. You're always going to lose like a little end or something off of it if it breaks. But trying to keep the big spring part from going through your prop, that's a bonus.
Gotcha.
So when I always just do a compression turn, right? It does a couple things. It tells me, you can feel if there's anything wrong with the engine, right?
Right.
You know what your engine kind of feels like. You know if there's no compression, you've got a problem with the ring, right? So just turn that, and you believe it or not, people put their damn props on backwards sometimes on accident.
I've heard that,
and they will destroy everything. But if you turn it, it won't turn by hand, and so you won't damage it. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's just a real quick thing. Just turn it one time, right? Just make sure everything's free, right? No weirdness, right?
Right.
Check your exhaust, right? I've basically put this on here with these.
Gotcha.
Right.
Zip ties.
There's lots of ways to attach it. That's the way I did it. The guy before me had used I don't know if the hole's still there or not, but he had basically put a hole, and I may have gotten a new one of these, but he had a hole, and he put a rivet and then riveted it to that. But the problem is the rivet broke, got sucked to his engine, and I can actually show you the damage it did.
Oh, you have it?
It's amazing the damage that little rivet did inside the motor. So I had to replace. About 100 hours ago, I replaced this, I replaced the piston, and I replaced the head. And that was about a $1,200. That's like the most expensive repair you can do on these, unless you ruin your lower. If you ruin your lower, you just buy a new engine.
Right.
So that's the expensive stuff is all right there. The tank, you generally want it to sit in the middle. I've got it sitting off to the side, but you see that you can have it either here, or here. Usually you're going to put that in the middle, not to the side. I was running 2 tanks the
Gotcha.
last time I flew this. You can see that I've got 2 tanks on that.
Yeah, I saw that.
So being able to carry, one of the things I love about this frame is you can carry 5 gallons underneath you.
That's nice.
The people that do cross countries a lot, they put fuel up on them. They have bags and stuff they're carrying with fuel on their body. I'm just not comfortable with that. You catch a leak, now you're a Roman candle in the air, and you've got things sparking back here. I mean, I can't believe someone hasn't died doing it.
Yeah.
There's other motors that will do 5 gallons on board, but not many. Like, I don't think there's a couple that now are doing it because it is such a safety hazard. Dude, carrying fuel on your body,
It just doesn't even sound fun.
it's a terrible idea. Essentially, just check your, just check it over, right? Check to make sure you don't have zip ties coming apart, right? The one thing you really want to always check, especially if you do ground start it, when you pull your throttle,
Yeah.
you see you've got your carburetor
Right.
swings back and forth. Make sure that always releases and goes back to home, right? If it gets stuck out, and I've never had it happen, but it can happen, and that's how
Yeah.
people get really hurt,
Yeah.
is when that thing gets stuck open. It doesn't mean that you won't have it doesn't mean that it won't go crazy on you without it being stuck open. You could have over primed it or something, but anyway, so that's the one thing you want to check before you prime it.
And how do you prime it?
That
Just
little
with a
primer
bulb?
bulb right there.
Okay.
So you've got your tachometer here. Should be Vittorozzi says it should be 1800. But here's the problem I'm running into with this. Once it warms up, that RPM is going to start dropping. And that's just the sign of the carburetor needing to be replaced. That's how it should run.
Oh, that's nice.
See, that's it. It's fluctuating somewhere between 18 and 2000.
Tell me about your helmet real quick.
IC2, it's one of the better helmets. It's not the best.
Oops, sorry.
But basically, I use the Sony X3000. It's just an older model action camera. It's one of the first with the motion stabilization on
I
it.
got one like that too.
Do you? Okay, and I mount it with Velcro. So if you end up getting a paracord around here,
heard that,
it doesn't
yeah.
break your neck. It'll
Gotcha.
take the camera, not your neck. Safety first, right?
Right.
And then basically I put,
Second.
Hey.
and then I put a battery here that basically keeps it charged up. That way I don't have that whole thing of, oh, my battery ran out. The only time I've had my batteries run out is when I'm on like 120 mile an hour or 120 mile cross country or something.
Gotcha.
Right, and I forget and leave it on.
Right.
So, and then basically I just put a little strobe back here, right? So I can pull that off in flight pretty easy, and just hit my little
Gotcha.
strobe. So I'm legal.
That is bright.
It's not the best strobe, but it gets the job done. It has the Cena Tough Talk. I ordered it with that option. I wouldn't have done that again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Cena Tough Talks, it's not that great. So I have actually another Cena on here. I'm going to take that off. But the reason why I had this Cena on it is because this Cena will let me record audio to that 360 camera.
Nice.
But
Is that the Kodak?
no, that's the Garmin Vert 360. One piece of
Oh,
advice.
that's 4K. Nice.
It is, but I only record in 1080p because it'll only do 30 frames in 4K. And for paramotoring, you really want to do 60 frames because otherwise it looks choppy as hell.
Gotcha.
When you turn your head, you can really see the difference in that 30 to 60 frames. Especially if people watch on a computer. They're watching on a big screen TV. They're only at 30 frames on big screens are only running at 30 frames. No matter how many hertz they tell you they're running, they're only running at 30.
Right.
A computer monitor will almost always run at 60 and above. So that's why on computer monitors people will be like, man, that looks like crap. So,
Gotcha.
and that's what everybody else pretty much runs too is 1080p.
I think I'm going to start doing 4K on everything because I got the Hero 4K. I got the
Here's why you aren't
Insta
gonna wanna-
360.
You may want to record in 4K. I'll let you decide on that, but I will tell you the problem with 4K. I can spend 5-6 hours to edit one of my videos, and I'm not a great at editing. If I do it in 4K, I'm looking at like 3 times that, just because Adobe does not run that great, and I've got a hot computer. I have one of the fastest i7s you can get with one of the fastest video cards, and I've got an array of SSDs. You're not going to get a whole lot faster unless you're willing to spend $20,000 on a computer than what I've got.
Right.
And it's still.
What I like to do
it
is
still drags.
Well, at least do it in 1080 and then up.
You can always downsample it from 4K to 1080 though, which is really nice. Actually, it looks a lot better than it looks better to downsample 4K to 1080 than it does to take just 1080. Downsampling always looks better, and I there's technical reasons for that. But let's see what else. Check your spark plug every once in a while. Make sure things are running good. Take the top off every, I would take it off every 50 hours. Check it out. While you're in there, I would replace the rings. Mm-hmm. And I'll look and see if I have any extra parts. And that's one of the things, you will want to keep spare parts around. My gasket was wearing out here, and I used Gasket Maker because I was in a pinch. Right. Might get a new gasket in for this.
Gotcha.
And you know what? Vortex Aero, and you can always send me a message if you forget this, but Vortex Aero should be able to send you a gasket for that. They told me they'd send it, and then they didn't. Okay. That's the one downside about Vortex Aero, dealing with those guys. They're not very professional. They'll say they're going to do something, and they forget.
Gotcha.
Right? They don't have a good ticket management system. So I think that's about it. One of the big issues you're going to run into, and this is an issue that we all have to deal with, is fuel, air in your fuel. Mm-hmm. I will tell you that I came out here this morning, and I think I started this last time I talked to you, which was 2 weeks ago, right. And the fuel was still up to here, which is good. But I don't know if you saw when I went up here, the fuel had already drained back down. That means there's probably a leak in my system. It's very easy to get a leak in your system.
So always make sure that this is full of fuel.
Yeah. Well, you're going to have the fuel up to here before. But I'll tell you, when you're running, you'll start seeing air bubbles, mm-hmm. And that's just the biggest pain in the ass. It's so aggravating, and everybody has the issue. Everybody. But one thing I do is I buy this kind of really good line, mm-hmm. And then I'll heat up the line and then push it over and then and I've actually found that, and my trainer actually told me to do this. I didn't believe him. I was using the ones that you screw on. He's like, no, just use a zip tie because it puts a more even pressure around it, and I have a lot less problem. I do believe that these little bitty triangle filters work much better, mm-hmm. than the big honking ones. Those big honking ones shake around a lot and put a lot of air in the lines. They vaporize the fuel. If I had to redo this system, mm-hmm. or mine, I think the new way that I would do it is, first of all, this I would put on this side.
What on what side? What?
I would put the fuel bulb on the other side. I would route it around that way. Yeah, just like, you might take a picture of this. Here's the thing, when I got this, it was all apart. I had no idea how to do anything. I had to figure it all out myself, and Dell doesn't do a lot of online stuff. See how he's got that routed? This is the fuel line. Okay. And it routes around this direction, and I just like that better. I like the ability to reach around with my right hand, and grab that. If you get into a engine wild scenario, mm-hmm. In other words, if this cable does break, right, or something, right, like that, you can see I've got I've got this right here, right? Mm-hmm. I've tried to do a good job. What I did is to keep it from flexing, I put shrink wrap. I put 2 or 3 layers of shrink wrap, larger shrink wrap, and just shrink wrap the small one, slid the next one over, shrink wrap the bigger one, slid it over. And that's why you see there's a hole there, because it's got such a big piece around it that it wouldn't compress. But that seems to have fixed the problem. I've put tons of hours in it, hasn't had a problem. Okay. But if you get into a situation where you can't stop the motor, and that's a common scenario, there's 2 ways to stop your engine. One is reach down, hit that primer bulb,
and just prime the hell out of it.
And just prime the hell out of it. It'll flood the engine. It'll die.
Gotcha.
That's really, in my opinion, the best. Mm-hmm. The other way is to reach through and hit that little switch. See how it's dripping fuel? Right. It shouldn't really be doing that. But the other is to just push your finger through and press that, and that's also going to flood it. Okay. So I'm just trying to impart some wisdom that I've learned here.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't.
That's why I'm recording this.
This isn't pre-flight stuff, right?
That's why I'm recording this. I want to make sure I got it right.
This is just, man, having flown things and had to learn the hard way myself.
Right.
I think that's it.
What do they recommend for
oil?
Oil.
Dell.
What kind of oil?
Dell.
And what's the ratio?
And Andrew recommends 32 to 1 red line. That's what Dell and Andrew recommends. They say they've never had a problem with any of their engines running that. I don't run that. I run 50 to 1 K2. I will tell you I was running 40 to 1, but I was getting way too much buildup of carbon on my head. So I use Formula K2. I think Vitarazi is now recommending...
I heard 66 to 1?
66 to 1 on that very specific oil, though. Do not run 66 to 1 on anything but what they recommend. And honestly, I wouldn't run 66 to 1. In my humble opinion, if I'm going to tear my engine apart every 50 or 100 hours to look at things, if it's got too much gunk caked up, I'd rather have more gunk caked up and clean it than I would run hot. Because the less oil you're going to run in there, the hotter it's going to run, and the more friction you're going to have. That's just obvious, right?
What I was thinking, yeah.
But the more oil you run in there, the more you're going to build up black on your head and your cylinder. You can clean that. You can go get, the solvent, and it'll take that carbon buildup right off. So, we'll tell you that Vitarazi is now recommending that you replace the head every 100 hours.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this part right here. That I don't know that I agree with that, and I don't know that a lot of people agree with that, but that is what it is.
But you also don't know how long this has been running, right? I mean, you don't know the hours of this.
Me, I'm right about 100 hours.
For that head?
Yeah.
Okay.
But like I said, I took it apart. It looked great. So I wouldn't replace mine. So
what I think I'll do is I'll just get parts for it, and if it does burn out, I got another one in the shop.
That's always that's a good idea. That really is. That's really your best idea. If you can just keep a parts kit,
run it until it burns out, and then replace it, right?
Yeah, and not have to wait a month or 2 weeks or whatever to get it in from someone.
Exactly.
So that's it, man. Unit's treated me well. It's always brought me back. So.
Well, that's what I'm looking for.
And I've had some rough things happen in it, and it's done pretty good. Let's tear it down, and so you can see how that's done.
Yeah. So I have no clue.
Yep. So basically, essentially, you've got just Velcro at every point, right? Yeah. I had no idea either, so I got it all in a box, just like shoved in there. And
I'm sure your seat goes down in the back, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's all down right now.
We'll fit it in there.
No, I'm saying like the trunk. Usually the trunk's usually.
Yeah. Lucky this is a hybrid, and they had all the batteries down below because they used to have them right behind the seats.
Oh.
So I was driving a Prius, but it died the other weekend when I was supposed to come here originally. So I had to get that car, which I love that one so much more than the Prius.
So you said you drive for a living?
Yeah, I'm a delivery driver.
Okay.
I drive for Bite Squad. It's like DoorDash, Uber Eats, that type of thing.
You listen to Cloud-Based Mayhem?
I haven't got into that one. I got it, but I just can't get into that.
It's tough at first, and you're going to skip like any podcast, you're going to skip a bunch of episodes that are kind of, especially the ones that have people on it. But there are some things like listen to the one with Will Gadd.
Okay.
That one's awesome. He was flying over Amarillo actually, and actually almost got pulled into a tornado. And he's got some that are really good, right? Like it's kind of like Joe Rogan.
I was going to see my friend that lives in Tulsa, but he's working and won't be able to. So yeah, it's all right.
Well, his family is from, I guess that area.
Southern Missouri.
Are you recording that so you can...
I'm recording everything. I want to make sure I don't forget.
You got my Facebook, you got my YouTube, man. Just ask away, right?
Right.
Don't feel.
Does this need to be all replaced, or is that?
I have had that sewn by a professional paramotoring seamstress. It's good now.
Okay.
But that is up to you. If you want to get a new, here's what I would do if I were you, though. I would take those. Get with me when I'm on, hit me up on Facebook, and I'll tell you the guy to get a new harness built for it.
Okay.
And he'll be cheaper than Dell. Dude, the stuff I've done with that, and the stuff I've gotten picked up by 100-foot thermals and then dropped out 200 feet by that thing, no collapses. I mean, just
hate that it got all tore up. Huh?
What's that?
Hate that it got all tore up.
Yeah, it's kind of upsetting to me because I really love that wing. You have no idea how much I love that one.
Yeah,
I
can kind of tell.
Yeah, I'm really torn up about it. It's like one of those things like, man, I wish I could get it fixed, you know, but
Right.
it doesn't. It just may not make economic sense. Now, I don't ever tear my stuff apart, so we're gonna look and see if there's any Velcro or anything that's tied to that. They're really. I will say this about Dale, and Andrew too. God, they make their stuff with such tight tolerances, which is good, right? Like you don't have a bunch of stuff shaking around.
Right. That's one of the things I liked about his frame is that, you know, it's so damn solid.
It is.
Wouldn't it fit in there like that? Or no?
I think it's best to take this top part off. I don't know that I want to. Do you think I ought to take this off for safety's sake, or no? Or?
I would like to see how to do
Okay.
it, if that's all right.
Yeah. Wow. You have a torque wrench?
Yeah. Yes, I do.
Oh, I just broke that.
Oh, no.
I have a spare. Yeah, like I said, I don't ever take my stuff apart, so
I guess we could have left that one on.
yeah, it's okay.
So what do you torque them to?
Download the instruction manual from. Do not let anyone else tension your belt. That's a pro tip.
What do you mean?
Because I had a guy that really knows a lot about Vitarazi, right? And I'm not going to say his name because I like the guy, but he's like, "Oh, I'll tension your belt for you, right?"
Mm-hmm.
There's that right there. That's your belt tensioner.
Okay.
That little fork.
Right.
And it fits in right there, and you unscrew this right here,
Mm-hmm.
and then basically you will put this tension down on that, right? And it's 1 gallon of water. They'll tell you the weight, but if you actually take it, I was trying to figure out what the weight is, so I put a gallon of water on, just a jug,
Right.
and then filled it up until I got to the weight on my scale. So I did replace the bolts with steel, but they're not stainless steel.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got a little rust on them.
Okay.
The stainless steel one should not. It's basically, and I don't remember which direction it is. It might be this direction.
Mm-hmm.
Or it might be this one, I don't remember.
Okay.
But essentially, what you do is you tie a string and hang a gallon of water off of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like fill a gallon jug all the way up, and that will match exactly the kilograms that they say to tension that to. And say in this sport, you're your own advocate for your own safety and your own
Exactly.
equipment. And that's it. I mean, it is essentially broken down until you start taking the engine off of the frame. I've always worked on it with it sitting on the frame. I don't think you can do that with a lot of frames, so that's why a lot of people don't do it. But I've always just been able to just lay it down and
Right.
work on it or stand it up, because sometimes it's handy to have it sitting up on a, you know, like even if you're working on like you've seen guys work on motorcycle engines, they
Right.
have like racks that they'll put them up so they can have it sitting up.
Exactly.
This morning someone was like, "Hey, what's the starter that I can use on this?" And I sent him a link to that. I have a YouTube video that says I'll put that on there. It's so much better than the stock one. Don't ever use the stock one. Not only that, these you can get for like $20-30. The stock one's like $200.
Oh, well, yeah.
So, and this one's enclosed, right? The stock one is open, so you can see the spring, but dirt and crap gets in there, and it's
Yeah.
just a terrible. Vitarazi makes terrible exhausts and terrible starters.
But awesome motors.
You saw my issue. No, their motors are the best in the business.